The Bengals selected Shemar Stewart with the 17th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Then they went back to the defensive well with Demetrius Knight Jr. A lot of you were underwhelmed by those selections. One guy that wasn't is Chris Sims. He's here to break it all down right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Chris, I appreciate the time. You were one of the biggest Shemar Stewart fans pre-draft. You had him number 2 on your list of edge rushers.
Right.
What stands out the most when you watch him?
Well, I think the first off is just he is a physical freak, right? And I look at him and go, this is one of the safest picks in the draft. That's the one thing I love. Let's just start there. It doesn't matter who he plays against, what team the Bengals are playing. You're not going to have to worry about Shemar Stewart going, oh, man, we might get overpowered this week or we got a real mismatch issue. I mean, his floor is like, oh, he's our starting defense end for the next 5 or 6 years, and he's a good player. So I like that aspect, let alone his ceiling is as high as anybody in the draft. He could be a superstar. He could be Myles Garrett. He could be one of the best pass rushers in football. So that's what I love about him. And two, right, what he did at Texas A&M, and this is where I know we're all about he only got 1.5 sacks and all that. And I think you've seen some of the things I've said. Disruption is production, right? Well, I have a thing what I call on my podcast, F the play up. There's too many plays or too many great players in football who ruin the design of the play, and somebody gets the tackle, and I want to go, okay, great, he made the tackle. The star of the play is the guy who ruined everything. And sometimes that gets lost in translation a little bit with the fans because we're stat line readers, where we just look at the bottom line and go, oh, he had a sack or he had a tackle. He must be really good. No, and so there is value in that. And I see him disrupt a ton of plays. So I love that. I love the physical ability. I love the size. He's never going to have an issue with anybody there. And then I also love the untapped potential. That's what's there too. He's raw. He doesn't have any pass rush moves. He's going to learn that in a hurry in the NFL and go, damn, if I knew this in college, I would have got 7 sacks last year. And that's what I love about it, too. So I think it's a very good pick by the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think it's getting a little too much a negative reaction, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the safe part is so interesting because on draft night, almost everyone was like, well, this is a big roll of the dice. This is a big gamble. But to your point, he has a high floor because he's a smart kid. He's going to work hard. I met him already and chatted with him.
Exactly right. Right.
And all the physical traits. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? That he's a productive starter for a decade?
Yeah, exactly. That's where you look at it. And here is a team that we know in Cincinnati that needs someone that can start and play right away in a division where there's some big offensive linemen and people that move people around. And you got, a quarterback in that division who can really run and move as far as Lamar Jackson's concerned. So you got to worry about him and have a plan for that. So, yeah, I love all of that stuff. And then I think on top of that, too, we talked about a little bit of the rawness and all that. The game is going to be simpler for him in the NFL. And that's where I think people miss it, too. A little bit like Will Anderson a few years ago when he came out of Alabama, I was a little like, wait, I don't love this tape, all right? And I think the thing where I messed up in evaluating him and where I took that into account this time with Shemar Stewart is the fact of he had to do things and was asked to do things at Texas A&M that Al Golden and the Bengals are not going to ask him to do. He was asked sometimes to line up head up on the tackle and 2-gap, sometimes just barely get on the edge. He played nose tackle because he was such a freak of nature, and they went, wait, he can do it, and this will let us get some other good guys on the field that can't do that, but we can move them outside. So he had the ability to do that. But now the life is going to be simplified in the fact of, hey, just line up outside, get wide, and we're not asking you to do a whole lot here other than pin your ears back and just go this way after the quarterback. And I think with that simplification of how he plays and what he does, yeah, I think the NFL is made for a guy like this. And let me just throw one other thing to you as far as my experience here, right, with these type of situations. With these guys, a lot of times, right, James? They're raw. They've been physically dominant their whole life. They haven't needed to push the boundaries of that physicality in some of the things they do. and they get to the NFL, a bunch of rounded alpha males who are crazy about their job, crazy about being good. The D coordinator and the defensive line coach for the first time in his life are like, we want more. We think you have more. That's not good enough. And he's going to look around the league, and hopefully Trey Hendrickson's there, and he's going to go, wait, if I do what he does, I can get $30 million a year. Oh, okay. And I've made that mistake of not projecting some of that growth that we see these alpha freak of nature guys go to that next level once they get in this environment. And I just feel like, back to your point, with he's a good guy, he's a worker, he likes football. Those are signs to me that show, hey, when he gets in this environment, he'll only thrive in the NFL.
Yeah, there's so much there. I think the F the play up part of it is so interesting to me, because the Bengals clearly didn't have that last year. They had one guy that could F the play up.
Exactly.
One.
Right.
4th and 16 against the Chiefs. And if it wasn't Trey Hendrickson, it was nobody. Right. And it cost them. And I could list a bunch of different games. I think right away he can help out in that department alongside Trey. Obviously, you hope that Trey's back because he's an awesome pass rusher. But on the other side, if you got a guy like that's just doing a bunch of one-on-ones, he wasn't getting you watched more than I did, but I'm almost positive Shemar Stewart wasn't seeing a bunch of one-on-ones in college.
He definitely was. That's all you have to take into account, too, and the context clues. One, the context clues are he did things he's not going to get asked to do in the NFL. Other things that are context clues in big-time passing situations, I don't know. For the guy that only had 1.5 sacks, I sure saw a lot of people going over there to block him. It wasn't like the other team was like, well, just leave him there. He's only got 1.5 sacks. Let's put the running back on him or our below average tackle on him. No, you saw in a lot of big situations. They were like, oh, he got doubled. Oh, they put the tight end over there. Oh, they put the back over there with the tackle to get him and chip him and give him issues that way. So I think within that too, you're being told by the SEC going, well, they were a little scared about him with the matchup on a week-to-week basis and in obvious passing situations. He's the disruption, the power. I thought his speed to power was the best in the draft. And it's really one of the only moves he has, and he still was able to be successful with that over and over. So there's so much there. I think he's made for the NFL, and I think a guy like Al Golden will know how to get the absolute most out of this guy right here.
It's music to Bengals fans' ears for sure, especially ones that were worried about the pick. There was someone on the elevator at Paycor Stadium on draft night that said to me, anyone but Shemar. So that's where the fan base was before the pick. Hopefully this helps them out, gives them a little peace of mind.
Hopefully it does.
Let's talk just really quickly about Demetrius Knight Jr., the 2nd round pick. This one was a surprise to me, not because they went linebacker, but because they picked him 49th overall. He was clearly someone really high on their board. They wanted the Jermaine Pratt replacement, and they believe they got it in Demetrius Knight Jr. What stands out when you watch him?
I think he was higher on a lot of teams' boards than people realize. He would have been in the conversation for next up for me as far as the linebackers were concerned. And I do think we got to get out a little bit of this draft pundit who has a big board, who's never been in an NFL locker room, has never seen a lot of NFL players in his life in person, and we just see his big board and go, well, that's the value right there. He's right. He's right. Johnny, who's never been around football's big board says this, so the value's not right. Ask the Detroit Lions about the Jahmyr Gibbs value at pick number 12.
Sure.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Number 12, they could have got him at 28 or 34. Screw your value. They loved him. They were conviction and that he was going to work. Oh, and all those people with their value, you were wrong. So up yours. He should have been drafted before that. How about that? Like that. So we have to get off of that a little bit as a society. Just going, well, he's a draft pundit. We got to follow his big board. No, I know from NFL people that this guy was liked. He's NFL ready. He's an NFL ready-to-go middle linebacker right now. Derrick Henry's coming down the A-gap. Well, I've been in the SEC. I know how to take on big offensive linemen and make the tackle. No problem. Oh, Pittsburgh, They're going to run physical football. They're going to do that type of stuff. Cleveland is Stefanski. So he's ready from all that standpoint. He's going to be very comfortable within the box, as we say, right? The tackle box, to get in the scrum, play that physical style of football. And I do think he's athletic enough to stay on the field in passing situations. Is he ideal for that yet? No, he needs some work there. But as far as big boy AFC North physical football is concerned, man, I'm all about Demetrius Knight Jr. I like his game a lot.
Our viewers and listeners would certainly say that I was on the Jahmyr Gibbs train. I argued for months pre-draft when he was picked. Obviously, he didn't make it to the Bengals.
I got dragged too, James. Because I put him in the same tier as Bijan Robinson, and people were like, "Oh, you're crazy. It's clickbait." And I was just like, "I don't know. The guy to me, he's got better. 3 rockets up his butt, and he's running by everybody in football. What's not to like about him?" So, Again, we're not all right about this. I'm not saying I'm always right. But again, we all got to respect the process. The Bengals obviously saw something they liked. And one thing, the Bengals over the years have had a pretty good eye for talent for the most part. I know there's been a few swings and misses here and there, but I trust their ability to evaluate. And I trust the head coach and the D coordinator, Al Golden, who's been around college football. Oh, yeah, wait, Notre Dame played Texas A&M last year. Oh, that's right. Al Golden got to see that guy in person a little bit. So I put faith in those guys as well. And sometimes as fans, we don't need to be know-it-alls all the time. And I fall into that too. I'm blaming myself too sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all do it to a certain extent, no doubt about it.
Right.
Last thing for you, Chris, and I appreciate the time. From Shemar Stewart to Demetrius Knight to Al Golden, the things that they did in free agency, getting a nose tackle. How do you feel about this Bengals defense going into year one with Al?
Well, I love Al. I'm a huge fan of Al, his creativity, some of the things he does on the defensive side of the ball. I do think you're a team that's going to play a whole lot more man-to-man maybe than you did with Lou Anarumo. But still, within that, it's going to be game plan specific. It's going to be creative. And hey, the big question I do think is, we got some unproven commodities in the secondary, but I still look at the secondary and go, man, there's a lot of talent there. I know there's some guys that we need to take the next step, or Dax Hill might move a position, but I still look at the talent and the physical ability and go, man, I like a lot of these guys. I really do. The big thing with them, the Bengals, is just the D-line. The D-line, and Trey Hendrickson, the D tackle play, is that going to be up to par? Because that was an issue last year, and we know that. When DJ Reader left town, it was like, who's going to stop the run? We're playing the Ravens and that big O-line twice a year, and their run game, and going to have to deal with that. So I've liked the adjustments to this point, and I think Al Golden will cover some of the other holes that need to be covered as we go forward here.
Make sure you check out the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or right here on YouTube, also on social media as well. Chris, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this, and we look forward to all of your commentary all off season long.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it, man. Go Bengals. All right. See you, buddy.
Really, really good stuff there from Chris Sims. Appreciate him for coming on, giving us the time. I reached out to him, full disclosure, last week after the Shemar Stewart pick, and he was more than willing to jump on. And so I love that. I love when it's great back and forth like that. And it just gives you some perspective, because that's a guy that doesn't have ties to the Bengals, isn't rooting for the Bengals, and is someone that is strictly watching the film, giving his assessment long before these guys were Bengals, and talking to people inside the NFL. And I really agree with him on Shemar Stewart. A lot of what he said is why I think there's such a high floor for him. And it's not as risky as some feel like. Not as high on the Demetrius Jr. pick, but Demetrius Knight Jr. pick, but that's not because of the player. I've made that pretty clear too. If you missed our grades or anything like that this week, make sure you check that out. Enter the Jungle was on Tuesday. Check that out. And until next time, again, shout out to Chris Sims for coming on. And for Andrew Fox-Miller, I'm James Erpine. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.